Wow. What's up, everybody? We feeling black and proud? We gotta give it, let's just give it up for us. We gotta give it up for us. Because we are doing this. We are doing this. We are doing this. In fact, when people talk about, making history and what that really looks like, we think about things like, the Harlem Renaissance and stuff like that. And I hope you understand that you are making black history, right? We're making, how many of y'all heard this? Did y'all, give me a yes if you saw this. Did you see that African Americans are now the largest group of new stock market investors in the country? How many of y'all heard that? Yeah, we're number one now. We are taking over. This is the takeover. This is the takeover. And when I saw that takeover, and I thought about who's really leading that charge, I thought about my heroes. A lot of people, their heroes might be like Martin Luther King or Barack Obama, and those are great guys. And maybe it's Cat Williams or something like that. Well, I'm gonna tell you, right at the top of my stack of heroes is Lamar Tyler and his wife Ronnie. Lamar and Ronnie are not just significant in terms of what they're doing on the wealth front, they also represent family and love and all the things that we are looking for in a community that are far more valuable than money. See, because the biggest thing to understand about money that's really important, and maybe I'm a little biased here, is that money is not the answer to everything. Money does not buy you happiness. Now money matters though, right? If you want to know the secret to unhappiness, just go be broke for a couple of weeks. That'll make you real unhappy, we know that, right? But money doesn't buy you happiness. Money will give you the day off work so you can sit around and think about the things that'll make you happy. That's what money will do. But also, more importantly, what money does is money gives us access to the things that are more valuable than money. Like our families, which we know have been systematically destroyed over the last 40, 50 years. Like our health, like our physical and mental health. Anybody ever been on the corporate plantation and felt how stressful that can be? Anybody gone through that? How many of you experienced racism on the job? That they never do anything about, but corporations put out their little diversity statements, right? But they don't back it up with nothing, right? So all these mental and physical health effects are the things that matter more than money, and that's what money can allow you to do, is to escape a lot of that. When you talk about things like freedom, what we have to understand is that in a capitalist society, freedom and wealth are connected. The intelligent use of wealth is critical to your ability to pursue freedom. Also, that freedom and that intelligent use of wealth is deeply connected to our mental health. I know this because my wife is a therapist who had the misfortune of marrying a crazy black man like me, and we talk about mental health every single day, and you would be stunned by how deeply connected our financial situation is to our mental health. So when you go build this wealth and you go make this money, and some of y'all already making the millions, some of y'all in the 100,000s, some of y'all just getting started, I want to remind you of all the powerful things that money can do that go beyond just getting the fancy car or the big house. I want you to have that, but after you get done doing that, let's really get to work on doing the things that really matter the most. All right, so they handed me a clicker before I went on the stage, and so I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to use this properly. So let me just start off as we get started and talk about this. A quick story about Lamar Tyler, true story. I'm not here, I've never given the same speech twice, and I do not get on stage telling lies because I'm not smart enough to keep up with all the lies that I might tell, so I just would rather tell you the truth. Lamar and I have been friends for about maybe 12 years, and I met him involuntarily. My brother, I'm a little bit of a hermit, I'm an introvert. I don't know if anybody else is like that, where you get locked in and you're just working. And at that time, I was still on the faculty at Syracuse University, so I was just Mr. at the computer working all the time, trying to figure things out. And my brother comes in, and my brother says, yeah, there's a guy I really think you should meet. And I said, well, who is he? I don't really have time. And he said, his name's Lamar. He's a really nice guy, and he's making a movie, and he'd like you to be in the movie and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, man, okay, all right, no problem. And when I tell you that I am so grateful that my brother forced me to do that, pushed me out of my comfort zone, I can quantify it for you. Let me quantify it for you. So I met Lamar. As y'all know, he's a great guy, a wonderful human being. So we became friends. A couple years later, we were starting to accumulate an audience. We were trying to build things. My thing was I was trying to get off the plantation at Syracuse University and actually create the Black Business School. I wanted to have an institution that focused solely and specifically on the building of wealth for our families. I got tired of teaching a bunch of people that didn't look like me, whose families were already wealthy. I wanted to bring this to our people. And so we were building up a little momentum. We had an audience, maybe the first 50 to 100,000 people on our email list, and I didn't quite know how to really take it to the next level in terms of monetizing that. I didn't know anything about that. So, because I told Lamar, I said, I don't really, people make you feel guilty, if you charge anything because they think that you're not committed to the purpose, but I have people that work for me, and if I can't pay them, I feel guilty because I can't pay them. So what can I do? So Lamar and I talked for 45 minutes. We had one 45-minute conversation. And do you know that one 45-minute conversation made us an extra $500,000 that year? I kid you not. One conversation. So what I learned from that is, number one, accept when God pushes you out of your comfort zones. You got to do that because chances are that your success is right outside of your comfort zone. That's what it is. It's hard, but that's where it lives. It's true for all of us. And then number two, never underestimate the power of those little conversations. You're probably doing about 80 to 90% of everything right. You just might need that little pivot, just that little tweak that gets you to the next level. That was my little tweak, and the rest was history. So let's keep going here. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to show you a couple of things today that involve stocks. I wrote my dissertation on the stock market, so I saw finance and stock market stuff from a very high level, sort of mathematical, theoretical level. I taught math at the University of Kentucky, so I'm a mathematical thinker, right? Very sort of straightforward, logical, all that. What's funny, though, is it wasn't until later, probably 15 years after I started teaching finance, that I realized that it was actually my culture and psychology that kept me from applying the things I knew in terms of investing in the real world. What does that mean? Well, here's the thing. When I would open textbooks, and I could learn all the formulas, all the equations, I understood exactly how the stock market worked. I looked at tons and tons of data. I wrote a ton of research papers on it. But in my family, nobody ever invested. So I thought investing was for white people. I did. I just thought it was for other people, rich people. It was for somebody. It wasn't for people like me. Why? Well, because growing up in my household, we never talked about stocks. We never talked about business ownership. We never talked about what it means to get into real estate and all that. All I knew was grow up, go to school, get a job. Anybody else grow up like that? Anybody else have that experience? And so that's what led me to learn how deeply connected culture and psychology is to how we move when it comes to money. A lot of times we might know what to do, but we don't actually do it. And in fact, an example might be when I was gaining weight. Before I married my wife, I'd been putting on a lot of weight and blood pressure's going up. You know how it is in your 40s. You start to, your life starts to kind of catch up. You look at a bag of potato chips, you gain 30 pounds. I don't know if anybody else goes through that. And here's the thing, though. When I thought about what it would take to lose weight, I thought it would be a complicated process. I was like, okay, I gotta, do a special diet. I gotta go and study all these different training techniques and get a gym membership and do this and the other. And my father was like, just get your fat ass up off the couch and go jog a couple laps around the block, and you'll start losing weight. And so here's the deal. Here's my point. Typically, the solution is really simple. The hard part is the implementation. Typically, the biggest obstacle to you becoming the best you that you can be is you. You. It's not the man. It's not your cousin them. It's not your spouse. It's not your funds. It's you. And then when I say you, I'm really saying me. Like, I'm part of the you also. When I talk about you, I'm talking about myself. So what I want you to really understand, so I'm going to share some stuff that I know works, but really what I want you to do is also we want to dig into that inner therapist inside of you. And in the Black Business School, we got so deep with it that we actually created the first ever Black financial therapy department, because when my wife and I started analyzing undiagnosed, untreated trauma and just the limitations of financial anxiety and our relationships and how money affects our relationships and how relationships affect our money and choices and mindset and everything else, we said, woo, we need some therapists up in here. Because they could give us $10 trillion in reparations tomorrow, but a lot of us wouldn't know what to do with that. So let's keep going. So I'm gonna show you how to make money with passive income. I'm also going to, so we're gonna talk about stock options. I'm also gonna explain why, in my view, this is better than my experience in real estate, why it's better than simply buying stock and owning it. Also, why it was much more fun than running my business. I enjoyed all of those things, but this to me was probably the easiest and most fun way to make money I ever had in my life. And I'll put that into context for you in a second. All right, so I've been working for most of my life. I got my first job when I was 12, and I liked it because I liked having my own money. And I used to sell candy door to door. And I would just walk up to people's doors and knock, and I had a little speech, and I got good at reading the speech. And this lady, I think she was pimping us, honestly. I think I was exploited, honestly. I should probably go file charges or something. But she would get these little boxes of candy for like 50 cents, and then give them to us and have us sell them for $3. And then we would get like 30 cents for every box that we sold. That is a terrible business deal for me, right? Like we got played. But I didn't care. I didn't care because I was happy to make my money. So I got good at it. And I remember I would come home, I have a little wad of money, about maybe a bunch of ones, about $20, $25. And that was a beautiful experience because I learned the value of hard work. I also learned a little bit about entrepreneurship in the sense that it gives you that ability to shape how much money you're going to make. And working hard was something everybody in my family did. We believe in things like personal responsibility and all that. You know, my father's a hardcore Vietnam vet type of guy. My biological father didn't raise me. You know, he got into drugs. And unfortunately, I guess drugs is more interesting than his kids. But I had a great man that stepped up and took care of me since I was 3. And I love that man to this day. Anything he wants, he can have. And so this was my experience. Everybody in my house worked. I got a job in fast food. I was very happy about that. And I kind of thought that was the ceiling of what you could do as a person that looked like me. So I saw education as a pathway, not so much for wealth, right? Because really, I mean, do jobs really make you wealthy? No, they don't. Even the good jobs don't. You know, I mean, really think about it. I heard a guy say, he said, the biggest scam in America is a job. And I said, what do you mean? He said, a job is the only thing you can do for 50 straight years and bust your butt at it and then end up with less money than you had when you first started. I mean, really, there are newborn babies being born today that have a higher net worth than a lot of college graduates. Something's wrong with that, right? Something's wrong. Not to clown anybody, not to clown any of us that have jobs, right? I get it. That's where we start. But after a while, you start realizing, wait a minute, this capitalism thing doesn't work well for everybody. And how do I change that? So I worked hard, and I thought school was the solution to get the best job that I could get. So I became a professor because I just thought, okay, this is something I'm good at, and this pays pretty well, and I have some freedom, and my mama will be proud of me, and all this other stuff. And I did. It worked. I was in school for a long time, till about 31 years old. And so I get my first job, and I was making like 6 figures, right? And I was living the dream, theoretically, or so I thought. And I was working all the time, about 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I did that for over a decade, but that was fun for me. And so I was really living the dream, but what I didn't know was that I didn't have the right dream. I didn't realize that there's a dream bigger than the dream job. I mean, if you think about it, even the term dream job is kind of a weird term, because nobody really dreams of labor, right? Like a dream to me would be like a nice banana split and my wife in a bikini, right? That's a dream. Working at an office with a bunch of people who don't even like me, that's not, I don't know what kind of dream that is. So I started realizing maybe there are other dreams out there, and this really came from exposure to wealth and understanding how millionaire families work. So that's my wife. So I said, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get up out of this place, I'm gonna go start my own business. That was hard because you'd be surprised how many college professors who teach business don't know how to start a business, have never run a business, right? My buddy Ryan that does sales funnels, ain't never seen anything that leads to a customer convert, don't know nothing about that, right? And so that was interesting. That's why I would tell you to this day, instead of going and giving $200,000 to college professors, I think a lot of our kids should be learning from people like Lamar Tyler, who can really teach you how to get what you're trying to accomplish. Education's cool. Education's not bad. I will never, ever speak ill about education. All of our kids are going to college, but all of our kids are also learning the things that we're learning here. If I could have brought the kids here today, I would have done that. And I would tell them, you're gonna learn more here than you're gonna learn on the college campus, at least when it comes to making money and building business and being free. So it worked, I made some money. I did technically become a millionaire, whatever that means. I traveled around the world, that was a lot of fun. I even married the woman of my dreams. I did not settle when I picked my wife. My wife was, I met my wife in 1993, we became friends, and I wrote in my journal that day, today I met the most beautiful woman in the world. And I got a chance to read that at our wedding. Unfortunately, she was so pretty, I was intimidated, so I never told her I liked her. I didn't tell her for a long time. But anyway, so it all kind of worked out. But here's the thing. I eventually turned 50. So what happens there, see, here's the thing. I'm not a guy that can really tell you a bunch of stories about how I just consistently messed up in life. I didn't mess up a lot in life, mainly because I was raised and mentored by a lot of people who did, right? I didn't have to try drugs because I had drug addicts in my family, and they'd be sitting there smoking. Don't do what I'm doing, boy. Don't do, you know what I'm talking about. Like those uncles, whatever. Somebody just got out of jail that will tell you like, nah, you don't want to go to jail, man, right? So I had those mentors that served that purpose for me. So I'm not a person that can sit here and be like, oh yeah, man, in my 20s, I was a knucklehead and I got involved in this, No. I was traumatized thoroughly by mass incarceration as I saw a lot of my friends going to prison for 20 or 30 years for little things. The RICO laws, 3 strikes. Anybody know about that? The whole crime bill and all, right? So I didn't make those mistakes, but here's what happened, right? So I realized that there's another challenge I had where I was like, well, what do you do when you actually accomplish the things you want to accomplish? Like, what happens when you're there? You're like, okay, I made it. Now what? I was just laying in bed, and I got depressed. I was depressed. My wife would be like, well, you okay, babe? What's going on? And I would just be laying in bed, eating chips, watching Netflix. And she's like, I don't know. I don't have a motivation now. I don't want to work 12 hours a day like I've done since I was 20. I don't want to go to one meeting after another. I don't want to sit and talk to people that I don't necessarily like that much just so we can make more money. I don't care that much about money. I had to make money to learn that money wasn't that important to me. But when I didn't have any money, money was the most important thing in the world. You see, money is like, I compare money to like a bathroom, right? Imagine you are in the airport, and I'm traumatized by that word because United stole all our luggage last night. See, I just seen a video right before that. It said, be careful in Atlanta. They said, don't go to Lenox Mall, you might get shot. And then I get to United and I land and they done took our luggage, right? So we waiting on our luggage. But then, but anyway, so basically, in that experience, it's kind of like, I was sitting there thinking to myself, what's next, right? Like, what's the next step? Where do I find the meaning and purpose? How do I feel about money? And the reason I would compare money to a bathroom is like this. Imagine if you really have to go to the bathroom, right? Anybody ever, imagine that feeling, right? You're in the airport and you get on the plane, you realize that you didn't go pee right before you got on, right? And so you're sitting on the plane and you gotta go to the bathroom really bad and you're in pain and the only thing you can think about is the bathroom. You can't have a conversation, you can't focus, you can't do it, right? And you get to the bathroom and you finally get off the plane, you run to the bathroom and you use it and you feel like this amazing amount of relief. right? Now, what happens after you finally use the bathroom? Do you hang out in the bathroom in case you got to use it again? Or do you go like build a house with like 10 bathrooms in it just so you can use the bathroom all day? No, what do? You leave the bathroom and you walk away and you go do something else. I think money's kind of like that. See, I formed my relationship with money when I didn't have any money, and so I learned early that a lot of times that grass is greener on the other side. We really want things that we can't have. So I really thought that money was the most important thing in the world, and then I got a little bit of money, and I realized it wasn't that big of a deal. When United stole our luggage, I was the guy who was like, well, baby, I guess we're going to Walmart, right? And unfortunately, I married a woman who don't mind going to Walmart with me, right? So she didn't get bougie about it. And so here's the deal. So what I realized is that a lot of us as entrepreneurs, when you get to that stage where you finally start making money, you start building capital, you want to generate generational wealth, a couple of things that you have to let go of is one, the assumption that you always have to work for money. When you get to a certain stage, your money should be working for you, and your money will work harder for you than you can work for yourself. Number two, I would look into a lot of other ways to generate income without assuming that the things that we learned when we first started getting introduced to entrepreneurship are the best pathways to success. I learned that if there's a type of business I don't want to do, I'm not going to do it. I don't care if it's the best way to make money, right? Because there are other things, when we sit there and we stare at the chalkboard and we're calculating financial equations, we're also looking at something they call utility. Utility is basically how happy you are. And if whatever you're doing is not fulfilling you or it's costing you in horrible ways, I encourage you to reconsider that. Let me give you an example. I know people who are attorneys who spent their whole lives dreaming about becoming successful lawyers. So now they are successful. They're making $500 an hour, and they have more clients than they can possibly handle. And now they're 55 years old, working 14 hours a day, and their wife has left them because they have no time to spend with their spouse. She either left or she's sleeping with the gardener, right? And the kids hate them, right? They've got all kinds of health issues, right? You know what I'm talking about? You seen this? Right, so this is the other side of financial success, and it requires a different type of equation. So as I'm sitting on sitting in the bed, watching Netflix and eating chips, I was thinking about these things. So with the Black Business School, we had our success. We have about 162,000 students worldwide. We have over 500 million views on YouTube. We've trained over 10 million of our people to buy their first share of stock. So I took tremendous pride. Thank you. So I took tremendous pride in what we'd accomplished, especially when we saw that article about Black people being the #1 investors in the world, or in the country, or the top new group of investors. That was a big deal. But then it's like, okay, so what's next? So let me show you something that kind of led me to the conclusions that I came to. So me and my wife, we do real estate because basically when you think about wealth, there's 3 pillars of wealth. And we teach this to all of our students. 3 pillars of wealth, 3 ways that rich people tend to make most of their money, and that's through stock market investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. Those are the 3 ways that you build wealth beyond the job. Real estate investing is the variable that takes people from poor to middle class. Stock market investing is what takes them from middle class to upper class. That is what the studies show. It's very rare that a person will be wealthy in America who does not participate in the stock market. So, I'm not a finance professor who happens to be Black. I am a Black man who happens to be a finance professor. So I see everything through what can help my community. I don't dislike people who are not Black. I ain't got time to sit around being mad at white folks. I don't do that. However, I love my people, and I don't apologize for that ever. So in the context of that, I said, okay, I get it. Now all we got to do is increase stock market participation rates among Black people and get us to make that a consistent part of our culture. There's that word culture, right? And then next thing you know, Black wealth will increase by a couple trillion in a generation. So one of the other areas, though, in addition to stock market investing, is real estate. Real estate's very important. My buddy Julian Gordon, he does a lot of great stuff with real estate, and I love this guy. I've worked with him for many years. And so my wife and I, we rent some property. So here's one of the things we did. We bought this house. It's in Atlanta. And the real estate was fun, right? So ownership of property allows for diversification. All diversification is not putting all your eggs in one basket. Your grandma told you that when you were little. And real estate is also one of the most surefire pathways to wealth, because it's rare that you're gonna buy a property or shop for a property 10 years later that's gonna be cheaper than it was when you first saw it, right? Now, here's the other side of real estate. Bad things happen, right? So we get this picture of this bathroom. Can y'all see it? There we go. We got this call where, because I'm just this absent-minded professor guy who's kind of flaky and forgets stuff, I forgot to pay one of the utilities or something, and next thing you know, we had all this mold in the bathroom, which cost thousands of dollars to get fixed. And I wasn't mad about the money, I was mad about the time. I was just mad about having to get on the phone and walk away from what I wanted to do so I can make all these arrangements. Now, I know property managers can help with that type of stuff, but they cost money. You have to deal with things like tenant evictions, which I hate. I hate evicting people. That makes me feel bad. Lots of paperwork. I don't like a lot of administrative stuff, just my preference. Sure, you can hire people for this stuff, but then you got to manage the people that you hire. And so ultimately, real estate just wasn't what we thought it was. You know, my wife and I we kind of looked at each other, and she was like, I don't really like owning this property. We bought some property in Atlanta and some in Chicago, and she's like, I know this is supposed to make money, but I don't like this. And so here's the thing. Two things. Number one, ownership of things like real estate investment trusts, you can buy those on an app in a couple of minutes, right? Just look up REIT in your Robinhood or Acorn app, and you can do that. That'll give you exposure to real estate if that's what you want. But then there are other ways to apply this capital. I'm gonna tell you exactly what my wife and I are doing right now. This is not theory, this is reality. All right, so here's the benefit of owning stock. The stock market is the most consistent wealth creator in the history of this country. Has anybody ever had a relative who warned you about investing? Because they're like, oh, you know, the stock market's gonna crash, the dollar's gonna collapse, you know, it's corrupt, bad things. Anybody got relatives like that who literally, I call them Negro naysayers. Like, they found a problem with every solution, right? So they will tell you, these people who've never taken a finance class, who never invested a nickel, will help you understand all the reasons why investing is for suckers and is stupid. And I understand why, because they have seen people invest badly. They have seen the headlines. You know, the media's motto is, if it bleeds, it leads. They use fear to get viewers in their newspaper. So when the market goes down, and we don't call that a collapse, in finance we call that a correction. Corrections happen all the time. Then they talk all about the stock market collapsing just to scare you, to get you to read the article. And then what happens when things start going down? What do people tend to do with their stocks? They start sell, right? And that's exactly what wealthy people want you to do. People like Warren Buffett, they understand what you and I understand now, which is that you can never go back. And I ask people this question just to challenge them. I say, tell me one single time that the stock market has collapsed and that it did not recover. Point one time in American history where it went down and it just died. Like the stock market went down to zero. It's never happened. And so when you gain that insight, you understand that actually the declines are the best times to buy stock. That's when the money gets made, right? So the stock market is not only powerful, but it's easier than you think. Let me explain. There was a book written in 1971 by a guy named Burton Malkiel, and the book was called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. And in this book, Malkiel trained monkeys on how to invest. And the way he trained the monkeys to invest is he had them throw darts at a wall. And wherever the dart landed, that was the stock that he would pick. If the dart landed on IBM, they would buy shares of IBM. If the dart landed on Apple, they would buy shares of Apple. So they took this big basket of stocks that were purchased by the monkeys throwing darts at a wall. Now monkeys are not gonna overthink it. Monkeys are not gonna sit and analyze their portfolios. They're not gonna worry and stress over market declines. They're just gonna go off and eat bananas because they don't even know what they just did. They don't even know that they invested. So what they did was they compared the basket of stocks picked by the monkeys, and they compared that to the best, most highly educated, most well-trained investors on Wall Street. And do you know what happened? The monkeys won the experiment half the time. The monkeys won. They did the experiment over and over you have to replicate, and the monkeys won over half the time. So how can monkeys outpick the experts? That doesn't make any sense, right? Because has anybody ever seen somebody really talk to you about stocks and they want to impress you, so they use a bunch of long words they know you're not going to understand and talk over your head, and it just scares the hell out of you? Anybody ever seen that? Like an investment advisor who's trying to prove that they're smart, right? And that's kind of weird to me, because I think it overstates the market. I mean, the market can be complex. It can be complex, but as a person who teaches this stuff, my goal is not to make it sound complicated. I want it to sound simple. So I just say, look at the monkeys. I mean, I assume everybody in here I know for a fact is smarter than a monkey. So now outside of this room, I can't count everybody outside the room, because I've seen people that made me wonder. But really, for the most part, we know we can do this. So my thought to you, my point to you is this. The reason that the monkeys were able to outpick the experts is because the monkeys pretty much did what you're supposed to do with investing. They did two things that matter, the only two things that matter. They bought and they held. That's it. They bought, they held, and they diversified. They spread their money out. They didn't pick one stock. You ever see people that'll buy one stock and they think that one stock is gonna, get them out the hood or whatever, right? No, they didn't do that. They had many, many stocks, and they held the stocks. So what does that say? It says the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to investing in the stock market is to not invest at all. That's the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to the stock market. If you don't invest at all, you're putting yourself at a massive disadvantage to people who do invest, because they're making money easily, you're making money the hard way. In fact, to compare it like this, you heard that term investment vehicles. Well, wealth, if you think of it like a vehicle, right? Like a wealthy person is somebody who's running down the road and they're going fast, and maybe we're all in different vehicles. Some of us are in cars, some are on bikes, some are on jet airplanes and going super fast, right? Well, the person who doesn't invest is like the person who's trying to compete with a car, but he's on foot. So you're working, right, in a society where workers' wages don't go up, inflation keeps on going up. You've seen all the news stories, right? Let me know if you've seen the news stories about how inflation is high, people can't afford to live anymore, right? And this is all a byproduct of capitalism. So they're in a vehicle and you're not. And here's the thing, even a person in a raggedy old 1988 Toyota Corolla can outrun the fastest sprinter on the planet. Like you can literally outrun Usain Bolt if you have a Toyota and he's on foot. You understand? So working is not a way to build wealth. You have to invest. So I don't think we should see investing as something that we do optionally or as a premium. It should be something that we do as a standard in our culture. We should do it consistently, aggressively, and assertively on behalf of our children, because like Lamar said, when he said wealth loves time, I loved his statement on that, because every single equation that we've ever written out that explains how wealth grows over a period of time is the number one variable in that equation. It is very easy for me to guarantee that every one of your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren is a millionaire if you do something consistently and you give yourself time. That's it. All I need is time. Now, what's hard for me to do is to make you a millionaire overnight. That's hard to do. And it's very difficult because we live in a society where we get overnight millionaires marketed to us through hip hop and sports, and that's just not the way to build wealth. So we do something in the Black Business School called the $5 a day investing plan. The $5 a day, I came up with this back in 2007 because I had so many people who swore to me that black people did not have enough money to invest. Now remember, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because a lot of you are already doing things that are building your economics. Some of you are already there and already doing well. But what I showed them is I said, okay, so that I can help us overcome the psychological barrier of our significant lack of confidence that we sometimes feel, right? Because poverty is a mindset. The word poor stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. I grew up with that, I understand that. Let me make it easy. So I said to a guy, I said, okay, can black people afford chicken? He said, yeah. Okay, so a Popeye's chicken value meal is probably gonna cost you about $6.50, maybe $7, depending on whether you get large sweet iced tea or the small, right, or whatever. So let's assume that you take the amount of money that it costs to buy the Popeye's chicken value meal, but then make it less than that. Let's do $5 a day, and let's say you invest $5 a day, and let's say that you know nothing about stocks, you just do what the monkeys did. You just invest in like an S&P 500 index fund. That's it. But you do it consistently. $35 a week, $5 a day is about $150 a month. Now, mind you, people are spending $300, $400 a month on their cell phone bill. The average used car note is over $500 a month. The average new car note is almost approaching $1,000 a month for a lot of people. So I'm not even asking you to do anything drastic. I'm just asking you to love your kids as much as you love your car. Do you love your kids as much as you love your cell phone? So let's say that you did that. Well, after 10 years, your child would have approximately $29,000 liquid wealth. Right there, you're out of poverty. There's no poor person I know who can say, I got $29,000 liquid in my stock portfolio. After 20 years, they have about $102,000, give or take a couple thousand. There's no 20-year-old that has $102,000 in the bank that can say that I'm poor. So poverty is in the past now. Now we got rich people problems. Let's go 30 years. 30 years, you're approaching $250,000, about $245,000. Let's go 40 years, you're talking about $750,000. And that's if you do the bare minimum. That's if you do the minimum. Now some of y'all, I know for a fact, are balling. Some of y'all in that 7-figure, 8-figure club, Lamar, whatever those different clubs, like some of y'all are already there. So what if you take that number, you multiply it by 10, right? Instead of doing $150 a month, you're doing $1,500 a month or something like that. Well, those numbers then multiply, right? Or if you do, let's say you do 4 times. Let's say you do for $20 a day. A lot of us spend $20 a day. We go to Starbucks or lunch or whatever, right? So that multiplies by 4. So instead of $29,000 after 10 years, you're talking about $120,000, give or take a few thousand. Nothing is precise, right? After 20 years, instead of $100,000, your kid has $400,000. After 30 years, instead of nearly $250,000, you got almost $1 million. Liquid, easy, straightforward, simple, been proven time and time again all throughout history. Money right in broad daylight, right in front of your face. So that is what the stock market does for you. Now, what are stock options? I'm gonna explain stock options quickly. Actually, if you want to dig deeper into any of this or you wanna stay connected, pull out your phone and test this out. I hope this works. Text the word stock to 87948. And somebody raise your hand, let me know that it works, because I think sometimes I mess up and I get the number wrong. But text the word stock, S-T-O-C-K, to 87948. Text stock to 87948 and we can stay connected. And we'll send you free stuff in the Black Business. It worked? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that confirmation, because sometimes I mess stuff up. All right, so what are stock options? Well, stock options are awesome because stock options are kind of the next level. Like I think of stocks as sort of like the main course, like that's essential food that you need to build your wealth. Stock options are like the seasoning. Like, you know, you ever eat like really dry chicken or something, or a turkey or something, where you're like, if this had some salt or pepper or whatever, it would be perfect, right? Well, options are kind of that seasoning. And what it does is it kind of allows you to shape your portfolio in a way that fits exactly what you're trying to do, exactly the amount of risk that you want, exactly what you want to be in terms of income, right? So, but here's the thing. If you break it down to the basics, what is an option? How many of you know what it means to have options? How many know what it feels like to have a lot of options versus how many of you know what it feels like to have not a lot of options? Raise your hand. Does everybody know what it means to have options? Okay. So like when I talk to my girls about dating or a boyfriend they're frustrated with, I say, well, I don't know what advice to give you exactly, but I can tell you that typically in these situations when somebody ain't treating you right, the person with the most options usually has the most power, right? Because options matter. Options are the cousin to freedom. Black people, we talk a lot about freedom. So if you understand freedom, you understand options. So options means you have the right to do something, but not the obligation to do it. You could do it if you want to, but you choose not to. Like I have the obligation, I have the right to jump off this stage if I want, but I'm not going to, because what would that do? It would just break my knees and I'd embarrass myself. All right, so you can buy, here's the thing with the stock market, because America actually has some of the best, most well-functioning stock markets on earth, you can buy and sell options on stock. You know, and what a lot of people became aware of during the pandemic is they learned a lot about the buy side, right? Remember GameStop and AMC and all that? Anybody follow all that with the meme stocks? That was a bunch of 22, 23-year-olds buying stock options. Well, why would they do it? Well, because you can get a quick flip. They wanted the adrenaline of taking $500 and flipping it into $3,000. But they didn't think about the dark side, which is that most of them turned that $500 into $0. okay? But remember this, though. Whenever something is bought, something must be, boom. So here's what a lot of people did not know that we knew back in graduate school. And what we knew is that people who buy out of the money stock options, and I won't explain what that means exactly, but the types of options they were buying with GameStop, most of them are gonna lose money. But the market is what they call a zero-sum game. If one person loses money, well, somebody else is making money. So if the buyer is losing money, who's making money? There you go. Like you go to Vegas and they tell you, they say you got the gamble and you have the house. Who always wins? Right. So I didn't want to go in as the gambler. I'm 50 and I have a family and I just don't care about that type of stuff. But I did enjoy being the house. So what I started doing was I started digging into stuff I remember studying on selling stock options, and I found that selling stock options, if you manage the risk properly, under certain conditions, is the best and easiest way to make money. Let me give you some real examples here. I'm gonna quickly lay out why I love selling stock options. Number one, the cash flow is consistent. Buying options doesn't consistently earn you a profit, but selling options can consistently earn you cash flow or income, similar to rental property, right? Or it's the same as having a cow and selling the milk from the cow, or having a chicken and selling the eggs from the chicken. That's kind of how I look at stock options. And it's another way to make money, diversification. It helps you to make money outside of your business. You see, if most of your money that you're making is coming from one source, you are in severe economic danger. I hate to say it like that. I'm not trying to scare you or anything like that, but that's the truth. You have to make your money from multiple sources. When they talk about multiple streams of income, that is a risk management concept. And the thing I like the most is that it doesn't require any work. So let me give you a quick example of the real numbers. This is a relatively safe stock. It has a little bit of risk, a little bit of flavor, but not too much. It's not one that I would necessarily pick first, but it's right in the middle, not in terms of risk level. Let's look at Meta. So if I look at the Meta stock price, on this date, it was $346. So let's say that I wanted to invest in it like I do with real estate. Let's say you can't really buy a house anymore for $346,000, but let's assume I buy 1,000 shares of Meta stock. Robinhood will loan me half of that money, so I'm really putting up half the money, but think of it like buying a cheap house. So I want you to imagine in your head, you own a house that's worth $346,000, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna rent out that house. Got it? You follow me? Okay, so if I pick a certain stock option and it has a strike price, the strike price it's like a bet that you're making with the other person. You're selling someone else the right to buy your stock at that price if the stock goes past that price. So the price is $346. Somebody that I'll never meet on the other side of the market says, I'll pay you money for the right to buy your stock, but I'm only gonna buy it if the price goes past $365, but I'm gonna pay $365 for it. So that means that if it goes up, he wins and I win. Why? Well, because I bought the stock at $346, it's gone to $365, I make $19 per share. So if I own, say, 1,000 shares, I make $19,000. So I'm okay with him buying my stock for the most part, right? But the thing about options is that if somebody gets an option from you, they have to compensate you for that. One of the first things we learn about options is that options always have a non-negative value. So they have to pay me for the right to buy my stock. So this number, which I pulled right off Robinhood when I made these slides, was $9.50 per share. What does that mean? That means that I can get on my phone and sell options on my 1,000 shares, and I will get $9.50 per share right at that moment put into my account. How much money is that? If I have 1,000 shares, say it loud so I can make sure we can do math. $9,500, right, that I would get instantaneously, that I could instantly message over to my wife, who's in the back, by the way. Hey, baby, how you doing? Am I doing good? Okay, you proud of me? All right, I love you too. All right. I can send it over and say, okay, you can pay off the credit card with this. This is real money. This is real. This is real life. So if I own 1,000 shares, this is what happens. So my total investment in buying that 346,000. I put 365K. Actually, that's not actually the number. It's actually 346, but it's okay. The principle is what I want you to grab. Don't worry about the specifics per se. That shows you, that's a screenshot of Robinhood. That literally was a transaction I could have made right at that very moment. And this is the amount of money that they would have put into my account right then at that very moment. And you could do that transaction every single month. Options have an expiration date. So if that stock does not go to 365, I can literally do the exact same transaction at the end of the month and do it again. If it goes past 365 and I sell my stock, I can turn right back around, buy the stock back, do the same transaction. I can use the same capital base and make this money all within 5 minutes while sitting in my bed. And I don't have to leave the side of my lovely wife while I do it. So I want you to process this. I want to ask you a quick question. Give me a yes or no. I got 1 minute left, so I'm going to make this quick. Can you really imagine a property in real estate? I don't know how many of y'all do real estate. Is there a house that you could buy for $350,000 that you could rent out for $9,500 a month and have that much cash after expenses? Yes or no? So do you understand why when I was explaining this to my wife as an alternative way to make money, why I was jumping up and down? Yes. This is better and easier than real estate. This is what we're actually doing. This is why we're actually cashing out some of our equity on some of our properties and moving in a different direction. And it's not just about the money. Sure, the ROI is better. There are some risks that have to be calibrated though now, right? So don't assume. All investing always involves risk. I always want to make sure you understand this. But the thing about it is that it wasn't just that the ROI was higher. It was that I'm tired of being stressed out every day. I'm tired of working my butt off every day. The sister in the back said, Dr. Boyce, do you speak at a lot of conferences? I said, no. I did this because I love Lamar Tyler and I have so much respect for him and Ronnie. Like I really want to close on that point. I want you to understand how important what you're doing is and how important what they are doing is. I'm telling you, in 20, 30 years, we're going to look back on this black economic revolution similar to the way we look back at the Harlem Renaissance. Because as a people, we are getting it done. We are taking things to the highest levels, and we're learning basic things that we're teaching our kids, which is that there's really no such thing as a dream job, especially when you're black in this country. I know everybody in here ain't black, and we love y'all too. We love everybody, so I want to make that clear. But at the end of the day, when I talk to our baby about careers, that's a little one, that's Taylor. We call her Tater. Quincy is the giant. I'm his bonus daddy because ain't no way I can give birth to anybody that's 6'9". I wish I could. But his father's a great guy, and we work together. We raise the kids together as a family. And that's another reason why I love Lamar and Ronnie is because they represent family. We need family because you don't understand. We lose a couple $1 trillion in wealth every generation because of what they did to our families. It is very hard to build wealth without family, but if you do it right, building wealth becomes very, very easy. But you got to think about the things that are outside of the bank account. Culture, habits, choices, mindset, family structure. All these things come into play. All these things matter. And there's a reason why media deliberately sends us messages that are contrary to all the things that are going to make us strong. So when I talk to the kids about what they want to do when they grow up, and we talk about what profession they want, I don't even talk about professions. I don't. I probably sound like a hippie. I just say, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you whether you should be a dancer or a teacher or whatever. I said, Tater, the only best advice I can give you is that I want you to be happy. And then that leads us to talking about what it means to be happy. I said, most people out here, even the people that make money, a lot of them are not happy because they never know what makes them happy. I said, but one thing I can do as your father is I can make sure that you are financially secure and economically educated enough that you can be financially straight enough that you can focus on the things that are truly going to make you happy. That's what I want for you. That's the gift I want to give to you. So I'm going to stop talking. I was told we would have some time for a Q&A. So I'm going to just stand on stage awkwardly and until somebody grabs a mic and asks a question. Okay.
I am here.
Fire away. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Savannah Burrows, the owner of S.L. Burrows Law Firm, where I represent multi-six-figure entrepreneurs and millionaire entrepreneurs, helping them to secure their legacy through the power of the law. So I own stock. I have no idea what I'm doing, all right? So what are, I guess, 3 pillars that you look to determine whether you would invest in a particular type of stock?
Well, okay, let's start with your 3 pillars to answer that question. I know that if you're not sure what to do, I would start with index funds. Like one particular one, SPY, Sierra Papa Yankee, VOO, Victor Oscar Oscar. There's another one. Actually, again, if you text the word stock to 87948, I'll send you a list of stocks that I actually bought myself in various index funds. They have a really good one with the AI. The ticker symbol is AIQ. So I would start there. And literally, when I tell you that that's literally, like, if you just did that and that was it, you would be better off than 80% of all Americans if you did it consistently. That's it, really. I mean, there's more, but I can tell you one difference my wife and I have is that she's not interested in money. She's interested in therapy. She's a therapist, and we go to the gym every morning at 5 a.m., and she's seeing clients all day, and she reads 22 books a year. She's not like Cat Williams. She did not read 3,000. But she reads 22 books a year, but she says, Boyce, when you talk about money, I fall asleep. But let me tell you, what her father did, her father was an extraordinary man. I was lucky that she wasn't attracted to thugs and athletes. She was attracted to professors because her father was a professor. If you study with therapists, you'll learn, they'll teach you how you've been dating your parents your whole life. I've been dating my mama for a long time. I didn't know that. And her father, the Dr. Francis Taylor, one of the greatest scholars in the history of Tuskegee University, gave her some wonderful advice where he said, he told her, first of all, her parents taught her how to live within her means. She's not a person that wastes money. But then number 2, he said, when you get a job, max out your 401k. A lot of people don't even do that basic thing. And this is, you're fighting stereotypes. On Saturday Night Live, anybody ever see that where they did Black Jeopardy? And they asked the question about 401ks, and she basically was like, no, you better give me my $50 so I can buy me some scratch-offs, right? Kind of like that's what black people do, and that's why black people ain't got no wealth, right? And so her father told her to do the opposite. She's maxed out her 401k. She bought a house as soon as she could. She also had a grandfather that bought some bonds for her back in World War II that accumulated enough money to help her with the down payment on the house. This is that generational investing, right? Wealth is a team sport. And that was enough. My wife didn't marry me for my money. She probably had more money than me. I don't know. I never asked. Right? So there we go. So keep it simple. That's the point I say. If you're nervous, keep it simple.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll answer the questions faster because I don't want. I see we got a lot of questions. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Holly Reed of the Master Playbook, where we are on a mission to equip the next generation to master money, right? So I host money camps for kids. I host workshops to help our parents understand how we can give our kids a financial head start, but our people are asleep, right? Some parents get it, they see it, but the services that we offer, you and I, the things that we are talking about, it's seen more as a vitamin than a painkiller. So what can we do to wrap this information up to increase the appetite for our people?
Yeah, I think that I know what you mean. I mean, you think about it. Think about how many parents will drop hundreds of dollars to send their child to football camp, but won't spend a nickel preparing them for the real game of life, right? Because most of these kids ain't gonna make a nickel playing football, but they are gonna be 30 years old trying to pay some bills. So it's crazy, and there are parents that operate that way. I will say, though, also don't give up hope. There are millions of parents that really do get it, and we talk to them all the time. I would try to find creative ways to maybe price things so that you can get people to at least give it a try, or bring the kid out for the first couple of meetings or whatever, and then bring them in that way. Maybe compare it to other things. Like I compare it all the time. I say, does it really make sense? Sometimes if you point out our hypocrisy, it helps us become more financially conscious. Like every single morning at 10 a.m., we literally do something called financial consciousness training, where really the goal is to elevate our thinking so you can really look down at yourself and say, what am I doing? Like, what's really going on? What's happening in my community so you can understand what it means to elevate out of that? Because a lot of it's just programming, right? So it takes a lot of patience, but a lot of persistence. And remember, you're not going to get everybody, but in my mind, the kids whose parents are doing the right thing, the other people's kids can work for them in the next generation. That's how I see it. Because our kids are going to be bosses. Our program is called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow, and we train them on how to be job creators because not everybody's parents have the foresight to prepare them for the future. Because the world is competitive, and if you are not economically ready, this world will kick you in your ass, and y'all know what I'm talking about. And that's how we break it down for people. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Dr. Boyce. I'm going to introduce myself from one mathematician to another this way. Quick, TSP, what's 18% of 50? I'll do it this way. What's half of 18?
9.
So as the Black math genius, what we do is to bring out the math genius, specifically in Black children. I don't have a question, I have a reminder. Freddie, where you at? Freddie, Dr. Boyce, Freddie, y'all already know each other. Y'all are supposed to connect and activate this Black math genius power. This is a reminder to get together. Thank you.
Yes. Well, God had a plan with me and Freddie. I think Freddie lives around the corner from me. Is that right? Yeah, we didn't even know that when I heard about him. Yeah, so Fred, that's my buddy right there. It's a brilliant, I love this guy. Yes, sir.
Yes. Hi there. My name is Caleb Jakes. I'm the owner of Millionaire Enterprises, LLC, and I speak on unlocking your God-given joy to youth and young adults. And so I've also done stuff in stocks when I was 16 and stuff like that, my mother's account, and just trying to, build generational wealth. And I was into the whole Dogecoin and all that when I was 16. But one of the biggest things that I've learned, I guess more is about the researching of stocks. So I just wanted to get your opinion on how I can find more reliable stocks, and even for options, I've used platforms like TipRanks, and I've learned how to navigate on apps where, Wall Street analysts and different things like that have given their opinion on stocks, and that has worked. But I just wanted to get, I guess, more options on what I could do to find stocks.
I think, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah,
I love what you're doing.
Your tip a few months ago, I've been watching you for a while. Your tip on Eli Lilly really just, oh my God, rocked the world for me.
You made money?
I made so much money, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Good job, Black man. Very proud of you, man. I love it when people get back, our people get money. That's a good thing. Okay. What I would do is maybe if you, what I do in the morning is I listen to Spotify apps or Spotify podcasts on financial stuff. There are different YouTube channels from Bloomberg to CNBC. They have things like Wall Street Breakfast on Spotify, The Morning Brew, just anything that allows me to consume information. Because the number one variable that moves stock prices actually is information. So I like to consume as much information as possible because that also stimulates ideas and perspectives to help you understand things, right? So, but remember also too, though, that the information does not let you predict a stock price. All the theory says that you cannot predict what a stock is going to do because the same information you have, everybody has it, but the information helps you understand the environment and raises your economic awareness and economic intelligence. And it also makes it part of your culture. So I would start with some things like that. Don't overdo it. I mean, don't pressure yourself, but really just consciously look for financial sources through Google searches and stuff like that. That goes a long way.
Okay. Thank you
All right,
so
absolutely.
much.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ashley Bryant, and I am a mental health agency owner and mental wellness speaker, and I help mental health professionals transform into successful entrepreneurs. So my question is, in the mental health field among providers, there is a mindset that you cannot impact your community and build wealth at the same time. So what is one thing that you would say to the therapists in the room who have adopted this dichotomous thinking?
It's really hard to help people when you're struggling. If I'm drowning, how am I going to really help you swim? And because money is one of the biggest challenges our people have. So there's nothing evil about making enough money to pursue the mission. When Dr. King and everyone else was doing their work in the community, they had to turn to the billionaires like A.G. Gaston to help them, or multimillionaires to pay the bills, right? Because even if you can be the best activist in the world, but you still got to feed your kids, you still got to pay the rent. And what happens with a lot of activists, let's say, because I have friends that are hardcore socialists and Marxists who just hate everything capitalist. I'm open to Marxism. Marxism is actually a really interesting ideology because capitalism ain't perfect. I am not a capitalist. But I say to them, I say, well, it's kind of weird that you'll protest capitalism on the weekend, but then you got to go work for a capitalist on Monday. You know, because nobody taught you how to create enough business enterprise to be able to protect yourself financially, right? Because the thing is that economics, in my mind, economics is warfare. Economic warfare is declared on our people every single day. That's what we're forced to do things we don't want to do, and we're forced to sit down and shut up when we really want to speak up, right? And this is not something that just happens here; it happens all throughout the world. They've been doing that in Africa and India and all around the globe. In fact, anybody heard of BRICS? BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They're creating like this alternative current ecosystem economically just to get away from the US dollar, because it turns out that the United States has used the power of its money to impose economic sanctions on something like 80% of the world or something crazy like that. So they've always used that money to oppress, right? So money, I don't look at money as something that is gonna allow me to go oppress other people. Who wants to do that? But economic freedom allows me to not let you oppress me. You cannot buy me. You can't buy nothing in my household. I'm not selling my children to the corporate plantation. Me and my woman, we work together in our offices downstairs and ain't gotta answer no phone calls if we don't want to, because we can pay the bills. Basic stuff. Like Kanye said, wait till I get my money, right? Right? So that's what it is. That's freedom. That's options, right? Yes, sir.
Hi, how you doing?
All right, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good. My name is Victor Jakes. I'm the owner of VAJ Design. We do design and branding, and we make all the things look damn good. So the question I have is, and forgive me if you've already spoken on this, but I've heard, it's important to diversify your portfolio, and I've heard that, it makes sense to invest in things that we need, things that are very stable that we need, like energy and water and all those type of things. But my understanding is those things are very low risk and low profit. So would you say that is something like that even worth it?
Invested in things that we need?
Yeah.
You mean so companies that make things that people need, let's say like a Costco or something. I use Costco as an example because that's a company that sells a lot of things that people need, but they're a very well-run company. And I bet you if you look up the 5-year return on Costco, it's been insanely high. And so, again, it's hard to necessarily predict which companies are going to do best. And you're right, preference, risk tolerance does vary from person to person. Right. But really, the way I would kind of look at it is like this. If you're young, you can take on a lot more risk than you can if you're older. But also, what risk really is it's not typically, if you do investing right, risk isn't like the odds that you're going to lose everything. Risk is really the volatility, the ups and downs, the corrections, right? Some people can stomach it, some people can't, like on a roller coaster, right? I don't ride roller coasters, but it's not because I think I'm going to die, it's because it's going to make me sick, right? Or it's going to scare the hell out of me, right? But I know I'm not going to die, right? So you can look at the market kind of the same way. So I would say that when you're picking your risk, if you use an app like Acorns, they're a really brilliant app in the simplicity, because all they do is they ask you the two most important questions in investing, which is how old are you and how much risk do you want? That's it. And they know, when I saw that, I said, okay, this app must have been created by people who understand financial theory, because that's what we find. When you sort through all the equations and all the crazy math, it comes down to these really basic ideas, right? So I would not overthink it. I would at least make sure when you start investing, be diversified. If you get to the point where you're obsessing too much over one stock, that typically means you're doing it wrong, right? There should not be one investment in your arsenal that is so massive that if that investment went south, it's going to ruin you. That's not how investing is supposed to go. So that's why whenever I hear about an athlete who says, I lost everything because of my investment advisor, I really am like, I wonder what y'all were invested in. It might have been your cousin's liquor store or JoJo's bowling alley or something. Yeah, you can go broke like that. You understand? So my rule is about 5%. I try not to put more than 5% of my assets in any one thing, and then spread it out and have fun with it. Like, it can be fun. It doesn't have to just be about the money. It could be an opportunity to educate, to be a part of things that you find interesting. If you like AI, again, text stock to 87948. I'll send you a list of the AI stocks I like. I invest a lot in AI because I think AI is cool. You see what I mean? So it's okay to blend the things that make you happy with your way of making money. I think that creates a great life.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you as well. Is that the last question? Okay, and I finished right on time. So I want to say thank you all very, very much. I'm honored to be here. God bless you. Thank you for your time.